So MVA Fund was able to move from a deficit of 12 million. When I took over, it had a deficit of 12 million. And when I left, it had a surplus of about 100 million.
Entrepreneurs take a system from a low level of productivity to a higher level of productivity. And I'm sure you'll agree with me, that's something that we need. And as usual with GrowthWell, we bring you insights in terms of how to build these entrepreneurial ecosystems. And that is why today we are bringing you one of the most decorated ladies in the space, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. So welcome, Regina Vaka.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm good, and how are you?
Another thing.
You know, I've always had a view that everything is going to be okay, even when I don't know how it's going to be okay. You see, these guys were awarded a mandate by the pension fund to invest an amount of, I think it was 300 million at the time, and then it was subsequently increased to 650 million. What we didn't realize is that these guys had an agenda to actually hijack the entire 650 million and make it their own. And this was something that if it hadn't been picked up, it would have resulted in a hijack of the entire economy. If I didn't have my legal background, if I didn't have an understanding of how the law works, I would have had no idea what to do. What I find is lacking for the average person is that sometimes we don't have those places where you can go for support. And I say this because sometimes our government or public servants don't understand what their role is. They think their role is to block you from going to get to where you need to be. The environment that we're operating in makes it 10 times difficult for you to take off and to move.
Welcome to the GrowthWell Podcast, where we tap into a well of knowledge, innovation, and leadership to fuel Africa's growth. Here, we explore thought-provoking insights and expert knowledge that empower individuals and businesses to thrive across the continent. Whether it's personal development or professional advancement, our conversations inspire action and impact. This is GrowthWell, where ideas flow and growth begins. Let's dive in.
The GrowthWell family, we are here again. And I would like to say a very special thank you to all of you for supporting GrowthWell thus far. It's been about a year and a half. We are currently at about 20,000 subscribers on YouTube, much more on the TikTok and also on Facebook. But I would like to say, Nyabonga Kakulu, thank you, Danki, Ndaboka, and all of them for your support. And we promise to bring you. Remember, the purpose of GrowthWell is really to bring you good insights, not just insights, but insights that can impact your life in terms of your growth and your participation and the growth of the continent in general. So we look forward to your further support. And please, when we post these episodes, please feel free to comment. We capture those comments and you see how we can improve the episodes going forward. So again, thank you very much. Now today is a very special day because now we're looking at entrepreneurship, because as I've said before, Africa can only be built through high concentration of entrepreneurs, not a few millionaires and billionaires who are almost the elite of our societies, but we need a mass movement around entrepreneurs. That's why today we bring you a special lady who's seen it all. She's gone through the rigmaroles, the sweat, and the successes. She's not only participated in corporate, but she's also been extremely transformative. That's why I call her an entrepreneur still, because you can still be an entrepreneur within a corporate world. So enjoy the session, and I hope you will love it. See ya. Welcome, Regina Vaka.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm good, and how are you?
Another thing.
Wamuka. Very spot on.
But I'm so terrible with language. Can you imagine I've been married to a Kalanga girl for over 20 years?
Hey.
But I'm still...
Yeah. It's actually not for everyone.
Yeah.
Languages.
Yeah.
It's
I always say,
gift.
as engineers, as we said about the brain, it is very tough for languages.
Yes,
I mean, she's
yes.
brilliant. I mean, Nancy's very good with languages. You know, she can speak Zulu, Ndebele, Shona, you know, and the stuff of it. So, yeah, that's brilliant. Emma, just for a start, I've picked up that you're a very grounded religious lady. And with your corporate and entrepreneurship journey, you know, there's always testing moments. And I just like you to share how your spirituality has meant to you. I've seen you putting on the you know, Lonton and Regalia. So let's just start about your religious. I always start on that light moment in terms of something that adds to a bit of happiness to life.
Okay. The spirituality is actually inherited. It's in my genes because my great-grandfather was one of the missionaries by London Missionary Society.
LMS.
Yes. In the 1800s, he was one of the first native reverends.
Okay.
And then one of his sons took after him. And one of his daughters became a nun in the Roman Catholic Church.
Oh, okay.
So it's in the line, yes.
Yeah.
They are a very spiritual people. So I think it has rubbed off. I can't remember a time when spirituality wasn't.
It's not part of.
No, because when we were growing up, my grandmother used to sit us by the fire. Then we would pray. Then she would teach us songs. And it's always.
Which is Regina?
No, it was in Swazi.
Oh, in Swazi.
Yes.
Okay.
My parents moved to Sibila much later.
Okay.
But we are originally from Swazi.
From Swazi.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's been part of me.
Okay. But how has it impacted on your resilience in your life in general? How has it manifested in how you approach life?
You know, I've always had a view that everything is going to be okay, even when I don't know how it's going to be okay. So I had a problem, which we're going to touch on later on, with one of my shareholders. And I was doing a radio interview, and the lady asked me, how come in the midst of such a storm, you remain so calm? And the answer without thinking was, calmness is not something that you do. Calmness is something that you are. And it comes from inside. And it's informed by something. It must be the spirit that tells you that, you know what, there's no need to worry. There's no need to get agitated because things are going to be fine. I don't know how they're going to be fine, but I know they are going to be.
They're going to be.
So I've always had a very strong sense of believing in everything, which translates to believing in yourself. Yeah.
Okay, that's powerful. And then before we touch on your profile in terms of what you've done, just tell us about who is Madame Regina Vaka. As a woman, as a mother, as an auntie.
Yes.
You know, I once saw you recently at a wedding where you're playing the auntie role.
I like to believe that I'm just an authentic Kalanga girl.
Okay.
Being Kalanga is very important to me. It defines who I am. And I grew up very grounded. Like I say, when we were small, we lived in the village with my grandparents. So we got all of that. We went to Nera Khunye. We went to fetch water. We looked after the livestock and all of that. We did the farming. So I was orientated in that way.
Okay.
And community, then I developed a strong sense of community because of that. A strong sense of community, strong sense of family. And it's never left me. And I think it has been a very good and anchoring point in my life, especially in corporate. Because in corporate, it's very easy to get lost in the applause.
Yeah.
In the, yes.
Yeah, the whole euphoria of corporate
I'm performing board meetings, I'm mingling with these very important people. So it's very easy to get lost. But I don't think I got lost because I've always been very connected to my family. So that is a very, very serious anchor for me. I'm a mother of two, and a grandmother and a mother-in-law. Yes.
Nice.
And I'm a Christian woman, a Roman Catholic. I've always been in the Catholic Church. I'm very active. I've always been a catechist. I'm a funeral leader. I'm a lector. I do a lot of things.
Okay. Which one? Is it the Roman, the King Cathedral here in Gaps? Or
I've actually been a member, all of them, depending on which point I was living. But now I live in Pakalani, so it's the Good Shepherd Parish. Yeah. So I find that it reminds you of who you are. You can't get lost. Yeah.
No, wonderful. Wonderful. And then there is this thing about Kalanga, especially Kalanga women, you know, boys talk about it, how they are very proud and very cultured. Any few words about that? Is that true?
It is absolutely true. It's both good and bad.
Yeah.
Because our parents really, when they're bringing us up, they really enforce the discipline. And every Kalanga child would have been brought up with the word gadzigan, which means simmer down. Settle down.
Settle down, yeah.
Yes. I was a very hyperactive child. So every corner, it was gadzikana, bongo gadzikana, bongo gadzikana. And it's done a lot for me because it was able to transition me from the hyperactivity to a very stable personality. So yes, it's very true. Our parents are very hard and they do instill a lot of discipline. And as a result, we become very disciplined.
You got that, young man, go get some Kalanga ladies, eh?
Definitely.
So, guys, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, in terms of what Mavaka has achieved throughout the years, I really can just say you perhaps one of the most decorated corporate and entrepreneurial leaders in Botswana. And I really applaud that for you because as an entrepreneur myself, it's never easy.
Ooh.
You know, I've seen people quit in the middle of it, say, I don't need this. And then they go and become a CEO of some state-owned entity because it's easier and it's got your salary and stuff like that. So, I mean, your journey has been quite a long one. I remember, the first time I got to know you was when you were MVA, CEO of MVA, and it carried on. You became CEO of Botswana Life. I think went up to Botswana Insurance Holdings, which is a holding company, which is the largest life insurer in Botswana, isn't it? Botswana Life, where you were there.
Financial services.
Yes, financial service. You were there for a while. But importantly, you became the founder of BonaLife Insurance, which is the first citizen-owned and third largest now insurance company in Botswana, which we will talk more about it. But apart from that, you've been chairman of Botswana Stock Exchange. You've been in various boards like FNB Botswana, Sefalana, Sechaba, G4 Security. So this has been quite a task, but also national duties. Like you've been a member of the 2036 task team. I remember experience you were there as well. And you're a founding chairman of the Mineral Development Company and also chairman of Botswana Stock Exchange. So it's quite a checkered history there.
It is.
So I just like to acknowledge you and you know, I don't know, I always watch the people that get the presidential awards. And you know, I say, why are there few entrepreneurs in this thing? Because people don't know what entrepreneurs go through.
Yes.
Those are the ones that most of the time they're quite deserving because of the value that they create. I mean, why this is special because, and you'll see that you'll help me. You've worked corporate, but also the big decision of being a founder of Bona Life. It's an entrepreneurial journey, but also checking what you've done. I say an entrepreneur is someone who transforms things. So although you were corporate, you're a transformer where you bring entrepreneurial approach to corporate, which is why the transformer comes in. I mean, you transformed MVA, you transformed Botswana Life. So that's quite... So I just wonder if you want to add to that profile in terms of anything that you'd like to add to that journey and how it all started to have such a decorated...
It started so by accident.
Oh.
Yes, because I'm a lawyer by training.
Yeah.
So I was practicing law and then I got married and had a baby. And when I had the baby, I found it was difficult to balance the very, legal work was hectic. So it was very difficult for me to balance the small baby and the legal work. So I left. I just felt the baby needed me more than the firm. The firm could. I was replaceable.
Yeah.
And then I stayed for a year and looked after the baby. And then when I went back to work, I was deliberate and intentional to look for a sheltered employment.
Okay.
So I wanted to have an 8 to 5 job. And so I applied to Bank of Botswana, NDB, MVA, and that's how I ended up at MVA Fund.
As an employee?
As an employee number 8.
When it was starting?
It was starting,
okay,
yes, it was starting, yeah. And I remember at the time I'd also been invited for an interview with the central bank. And the deputy governor at the time was Dr. Lawrence. So just after I started my job at MVA Fund, they called me. He called me and said I needed to come for a meeting. And I went and he said, we want you at the central bank. I said, I've already started a job at MVA Fund.
MVA.
And he said, what's MVA Fund? I described, he didn't know about it. I described, he says, well, I think in the wider national interests, you should be at the central bank. Well, when I didn't know what a central bank was. So I didn't even understand what wider national interests were. But I knew that I'd taken up this job with MVA Fund. So I told him...
Because you're in your mid-20s at the time.
Yes, I was. Yeah. I said, I've already taken up this job, so I can't leave. He says, no, this is a far more important national calling. I said, but I have to honor my word. And that's how I stayed at MVA Fund. So I was an employee. I came in as a legal officer. Then I became the claims manager, company secretary. And very soon after that, there was a shake-up at the top because the CEO got into trouble and he had to leave. And the deputy CEO also decided he was leaving and went to South Africa. So I was just sucked into the vacuum.
To become the CEO?
To become I was appointed the deputy CEO.
Okay.
And the acting CEO at the same time. So I was just sucked into this vacuum. And that's why I say it was by accident. And the default mode, the upbringing and everything that I've ever had is you don't fail at what you do, no matter what it is. So I had to succeed because of that upbringing. Yeah.
And then you, as I said, whatever you touch, you leave a mark. Just tell us about the mark that you left in terms of growing the book at MVA.
When I came into MVA Fund, it was just coming out of the Ministry of Finance and it was being set up as a parastatal. But believe you me, it means that the people behind the setting up of the fund already had an agenda. The template for, what shall I say, for mischief doesn't start now that we see in our economy now. It doesn't start now. It goes back a long way. So they had an agenda and a plan, which is quite different from the one that's written and scripted and the one that you used to convince the minister and everybody else. So when we got to the MVA Fund, one of the things that was happening is that it was a fund that was supposed to be paying accident victims. But we already found that there was an established chain of people that had set themselves up to become claimants or to help the claimants at the fund. And we already had police officers that were involved, ambulance chasers that were involved, and lawyers that were involved. So as soon as an accident happened, the police would be called and those specific police would come. They would write a favorable report. They would get an ambulance. They would refer the person to a doctor. And you get this glorious medical legal report that's exaggerating everything. And the claim would move from 5,000 to 50,000 to 100,000. So we already had that. And of course, it was a concern. But the good thing is that the boss that I had at the time was a retired judge from Zimbabwe. And he was steeped in the legal profession. And he saw that this is what was happening. We have to bring it to an end. So that's how we changed the legislation from what it was and made the legislation to enable the fund to be the one that actually does the investigations, to be the one that has a look at how injured the people have been, and to perform a quasi-judicial function of settling the claim.
Okay.
So that, I can call it a cartel, was extinguished.
Was broke, yeah.
Yes. And it's what destroyed the equivalent of the MVA Fund in South Africa.
Okay.
Because I think it was that strategy was a cut and paste.
Yeah, of what South Africa.
Yes, of what's happening in South Africa. So the fund in South Africa hasn't survived. But because we did that, and then alongside that, we introduced actuaries to come in and determine the rate at which the fund should be funded. And then we introduced an accident prevention department and also an investment department.
Okay.
So the combination of all of that made it certain that the funds were properly looked out, they were properly dispensed, and the accidents were reduced.
Okay.
Because that is what was driving the claims. So that was what happened at MVA Fund. So MVA Fund was able to move from a deficit of 12 million. When I took over, it had a deficit of 12 million. And when I left, it had a surplus of about 100 million.
Wow.
Just by putting those things in place.
And currently it's one of the most successful parastatals for government.
Yes, it is. It is. It's flourished. The departments that were put in place were strengthened and all of that. Yeah. So it's one of the few successful.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now coming to our baby, BonaLife. Your baby.
Yes.
So, and I'd like us to focus on, first, I'm sure the seeds were planted with your Botswana Life, just how the idea came about, because it was quite, and also, again, in the same light, it was always quite transformative to think about setting up a wholly citizen, homegrown life insurer. That's the first for Botswana. When you had strong players already, strong players like, like Botswana Life, like your Hollards, like all the others that were already in existence. So how did it all start? And in terms of just the business idea, before we get into the rigmaroles.
Again, that was by accident. When I left Botswana Life, I took a sabbatical for a year because my father was unwell, and my father is my favorite person. So I took the sabbatical leave to go and be with him and to nurse him and all that. And when I was ready to go back to work, I thought, I want to go back to the parastatal sector because that's where I really feel I'm serving the public. I don't want to be in the private sector anymore. And I applied to BTO.
Botswana Tourism Organization.
Yes. I really felt that I could do a lot there. And I didn't get the job because I didn't get the job.
You are rejected.
Yes, I was rejected because the appointing authority didn't want to appoint me.
Yeah.
But the thing is that the chairperson at the time was very keen to have a discussion with me. I think she wanted to let me know why that didn't happen.
Okay.
And she called me. I said, I'm in Cape Town. So she decided that she was going to meet me at the airport. And she met me at the airport and she said, we really liked you and we really recommended, but the appointing authority didn't approve. So I wanted to let you know in person. I said, thank you very much. That's very honorable
of you.
And but it's not your fault. It's not your call. And I was walking out with her when I met Bilkis Murad at the door. And Bilkis says, Regina, where have you been? I've been looking for you this whole time. I said, why have you been looking for me? She says, because I've got these investors from Mauritius who want to set up a life insurance company and they're looking for a local partner. And they're leaving tomorrow. So I went and had dinner with them. They were from Mauritius and they were looking for somebody to run the company for them. I said, I'm graduated. No, I said I've graduated from running. I want to own. And that's how Brema Life came into existence as a partnership with the Mauritian company. And I was a shareholder in that. And then we set it up with the Mauritians. And as luck would have it, the guys that owned BAI, which was the shareholder in this BonaLife when we formed it in Mauritius, were good friends with the president at the time.
Okay.
Just
The
after
president
forming,
of Botswana.
no, the president in Mauritius.
In Mauritius, okay.
Just after forming it, the president lost the elections. So he had to flee Mauritius, and the new government that came in wiped out all his friends. So his friends had to flee, the companies were seized, and it was a palaver in Mauritius. So we went to the regulator and we said, we don't want this contamination to spill over
Into Botswana.
into Botswana. So let's part ways with the Mauritians and find local partners. And because the BonaLife was in trouble, the regulator at the time appointed a statutory manager in the like of Nigel Dixon Warren.
Okay.
So he was the statutory manager.
And was he still with, was it PwC or KPMG?
It was KPMG.
KPMG, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as luck would have it, shall I say, as bad luck would have it, that was the time when CMB, Capital Management Botswana, had just won a mandate from the BPOPF.
Yes, the pension fund.
Yes, from the pension fund. And they just strolled in as the answer to our...
So we are ready.
Yeah, so they had a discussion with Nigel, and Nigel said, this is perfect. I said, yes, Nigel, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be partnering with the BPOPF.
Okay.
I understood that in terms of the asset management space and equity space, those were BPOPF funds. And therefore, that was the ultimate shareholder. So we were happy. The transaction happened.
To partner with the pension fund.
Yes, to partner with the Botswana Pension Fund. And we took the transaction through the regulator, and the regulator approved it, and it was a happy party. Yes, and we advertised and we told everybody about this happy story of this citizen-owned company that had just happened. Yes.
So everything of yours is like accidentally. That's why I always tell people, be there, get involved. Other things will just fall in place, isn't it?
Yes. I'm actually using the word accidental because I just want to relate to the average person. But for me, it was designed, it was ordained, it was, God puts you where he wants you to be for a purpose.
That's correct.
So that's how we ended up with BonaLife. Then we rebranded it to BonaLife.
To BonaLife, okay.
Then the fun and games started.
But before we get into the fun and games, I actually thought the whole BPOPF thing, you had thought about it quite, because it's quite strategic. So the fundamentals of BonaLife, what were your ideas in terms of how to differentiate in the market? Like I said, to take on, the big boys or the big girls that are already in the market. How did you want to position it?
We wanted to position it as a pension entity. And that is why the main product that we started with was annuities.
Okay.
And we're going to build an annuity portfolio so that we could create that as a basis for subsequently launching into bigger things.
Okay.
So we started off with an annuity portfolio, and then we developed the individual life products. Yes.
Okay. Basically leveraging the pensioners.
Yes.
In the BPOPF book.
And people who were retiring from government or retiring from wherever they were. Yes. So that was the main differentiator, because most of the life insurance companies were relying on individual life products.
That's correct.
And that was going to take us forever to build the type of gravitas that we wanted to build.
And has that worked through the life of BonaLife up to now?
It has worked. It has worked. And it's actually such so ironic because that is what made it attractive for CMB to want to invest in BonaLife. They wanted a life insurance company that had the size, for them to be able to do what they wanted to do, which we didn't know. So they were not interested in a small life insurance company that was going to be selling individual life products, because it would take too long for them to do what they wanted to do. Yes. So that's why it was so extremely attractive to them. The fact that we were into pension funds and annuities, which were bigger money than the individual life products.
Cool. Now the fun begins, as you said.
Yes.
And later on, you got court cases, you got guys in jail, you got, even government appointees. All we chatted earlier than that. You need a book around this story.
Yes, definitely.
So how did the signals of trouble start popping out of this whole Bona Life, where you are right at the heart of it?
Yeah, the signals of trouble. You see, these guys were awarded a mandate by the pension fund.
CMB.
Yes, to invest an amount of, I think it was 300 million at the time, and then it was subsequently increased to 650 million. So they went around looking for local businesses that they could invest this money in. And BonaLife happened to be one of the businesses that they identified. And as I already said, we thought it was a good thing because we thought we were getting an investment from the pension fund. What we didn't realize is that these guys had an agenda to actually hijack the entire 650 million and make it their own. So in all the businesses that they were investing in to ultimately pull the plug and have those businesses being their own. The first signal for us that there was a problem was when they started having a fallout with the BPOPF. And the BPOPF by that time, led by BJ Molefe, was questioning the mandate and the contract that they had signed. Because they had signed a very wide mandate which gave them almost authority to do anything.
This is a contract between the asset manager, CMB, and the pension fund,
and
BPOPF.
The pension fund, yes. And then it also came out in the papers that the BPOPF was querying even the investments that were being made. And I was like, but I'm one of those investments that's been made. So there must be something that the BPOPF that has picked up that could affect me. Now, at the time, I did give BJ a call and said, BJ, what is this that I'm reading in the papers about you and the BPOPF? And she wouldn't talk to me. And later on, it transpired she wouldn't talk to me because she thought I was in with these guys.
With the CMB.
Yes, that were swindling the BPOPF.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to her because I thought we were common victims.
Yes. You're also vulnerable.
Yes, that only came through 14 months later that we were common victims with the BPOPF and BIFM. And so that's when the signals were out there. And then we looked carefully at our transactions and our dealings with them. And it also happened that we were now going through an audit, and some of these questions that the BPOPF was asking, we were also asking and not getting satisfactory answers. And one of the key things that was really important about that CMB fiasco is that when you are involved in asset management, it's normal to manage big funds for clients. But when you register any asset that you acquire, it has to be registered in such a way that it reflects that it is bought on behalf of. And that's where they conveniently dropped the OBO. So that these assets became registered in CMB Fund 1 as assets of CMB Fund 1.
Not as assets of.
It should be assets of CMB Fund 1 on behalf
of BPOPF.
Yes.
Got you.
So the on behalf of conveniently fell away. And this was something that if it hadn't been picked up, it would have resulted in a hijack of the entire economy. Because you can just figure out what 650 million could have invested in. And then they would have been able to pull the plug and claim all of those assets. So they were now proposing that they should go on an arbitration with the BPOPF. And I couldn't understand what was being arbitred. You know, if you've got a contract to manage assets on behalf of people, what are you going to negotiate? So when we now picked up the issue at BonaLife, and they tried the same thing with us to say, no, it's a misunderstanding. We need to fix it. Let's have discussions. I said, what's there to discuss? You've got our assets. You've registered them in your name. So you need to fix that. Oh, yeah, no, we're going to fix that. We're going to fix that. And they kept playing this game. But what I couldn't understand is, what were we going to negotiate? And I kept asking this question, what are we negotiating? Because it's a question of just doing the right things and handing over these assets and registering
to the rightful.
Yes. In the meantime, in their scheme of things, they wanted to go into private negotiations where they would say, oh, no, it's okay. We'll give you your assets back if you do this. And I was like, but there's no if, you know? So that's where where the fighting started, And that's where we then found out that we're in the same boat with the BPOPF. We were in the same boat with BIFM. CMB, at the time, CMB, they only had 3 clients. And all 3 clients were complaining.
Is it?
Yes. So in January of 2018, I think it was, when the regulator opened their offices, I was sitting there waiting for the regulator.
This is Mbifira now.
Yes, it's Mbifira, to say we've got problems with our asset managers, with our shareholder, because they are not doing things in the manner that we should. Yes. And therefore, that's how it got to the regulator. Yeah.
And then the regulator, what action did they take?
Well, the regulator, after being taken aback, the action that they ultimately had to take was to appoint a statutory manager into CMB to find out what was really going on. And that's where everything just blew up. Yeah. Because the plan that they had to go for arbitration with the BPOPF was gaining traction. I think the BPOPF, for whatever reasons that they had, were going that route. And so when it went to the regulator route, it completely torpedoed everything, because the regulator now went in with the law to go and investigate and find out what was going on.
And the way you are handling it, I remember you'll go on you'll explain things to the media in terms of us, and the level of calm and the whole stormy affair, were you like, hey, I need to quit, why is this happening to me? How did that manifest in terms of just you handling the storm? And that, up to date, I think the recent years has still been very topical, with some guys being jailed and it really dragged on.
It did.
Till in the end you had to exit. Just tell us about how then you ended up having to exit.
Well, the whole thing was so ugly, and it was very dangerous, because when the investigations started, it became very clear in those investigations that this was a syndicate which involved considerable weighty people in the region, not just in the country.
Not just in Botswana.
Just in Botswana. So it was part of a criminal syndicate. And it was everything that I had been brought up not to be. So my family were very concerned.
Okay.
And they were saying, why don't you get out of this? I said, I can't get out of this. Because there are pension funds that are in this company. Now, remember when I set up this company, it didn't exist. So the people that have invested in this company have invested in me. So I can't leave them. I can only leave them when this thing has been sorted out and I'm satisfied that it's gone away. So leaving was not an option. They fired me I refused to go. They wrote a letter firing
When
me.
you say they fired you, who fired you?
It was CMB. They wrote a letter and said that they
and
were
as an
firing
asset
me.
manager, they have the right to do that.
No, they were trying to fire me as shareholders because what they did was the stake that was in the BPOPF, they were representing that on the board.
I got you.
So they wrote me a letter and I said, oh, okay, I've seen your letter. Show me the board resolution, because there was no board resolution that had said that. So they tried to take that to court. It didn't go anywhere. So I stayed and I said, well, if you want to remove me, you will have to remove me when I'm not volunteering, because that's not going to happen. So then the fighting started. You know, they went to court, they tried everything, and we kept being dragged from one court to another court. The DCEC came in to investigate, and I must say the DCEC was very divided. It's not a cohesive institution. You would get a team of investigators coming who were coming to try and get you arrested. And then you'd get a team that was coming that was trying to go and find out what really happened.
Yeah.
So in the end, I just had to ask them to go away because I didn't know which team to trust. And I could see, with my legal background, I could see that there was a lot of nonsense going on. Yeah. But to cut a long story short, and why I said I keep using the word accident when it isn't an accident, it became very clear to me that if I didn't have my legal background, if I didn't have an understanding of how the law works, I would have had no idea what to do. It would have been more difficult for me to know that I can't solve this on my own. I need to be able to solve it with the regulator. And so all the years of my training, of corporate governance, of everything, just came to bear on that time to give me the answers that I needed. Because I couldn't trust anybody. I couldn't think of anybody to turn to. I didn't turn to anyone because I saw that this is a syndicate, this is a big thing, and I might just be going to the enemy. So the only place that I could go to was the regulator. And when I went to the regulator, I took the act and I read out to the regulator that this is what your powers are, this is what you can do. Let's do this. Yeah.
You still haven't answered, how did you ultimately exit?
How did I ultimately exit? Well, the thing played itself out, and then Bona Life went into statutory management again.
Yeah.
So I had to work with the
Dixon Warren.
Yes, to make sure that everything was okay, and then a liquidator was appointed for CMB to try and retrieve the assets and so on. And then when things had normalized, when the assets had been traced, we knew where the assets were. And the law was really clamping in and rounding up these guys. It became clear that this thing has been arrested and the company can now move forward.
Okay.
Because the injection the capital injection that the regulator required had been made. And so I said, I own 25% of this company. The rest was owned by the BPOPF and CMB, but CMB had never paid anything for it, so it was the BPOPF. And I sat down with the BPOPF and I said, you guys own this thing, and you own all of these shares. I have mine because I got them when we were setting up the company with the Mauritius firm. But I don't want to have anything to do with this anymore. So I want to be able to exit. I believe that everything else that needs to happen after this, you can be able to pick up and do. So that's how I exited.
Okay.
Yes, when the storm was over, when it was calm, when the regulator had released the company from statutory management, and more board members had been appointed. Yeah.
And then you remained as a shareholder.
I didn't remain as a shareholder.
Oh, you exited totally.
Yes, I did. I felt like I had been dunked in the sewage pond. I just felt it was just everything that I wasn't. I couldn't imagine myself holding that stake and still be able to sleep at night. It was contaminated. I didn't want it anymore. Yeah.
Shame. Yeah, it looks like it was hell. It was real hell. And
it was.
Yeah, and in terms of just the crisis management, what lessons would the audience pick from you in terms of when you are in that type of storm? What are the essentials? Just like 2 or 1 top essential that you need to maintain. Because you could have easily broken down.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
You could have broken down and say, why is this happening to me? These are, as you said, I've got skeletons here. You could have argued with BPOPF and not reasoned with them. So what from a crisis management, especially as a lawyer, and from a corporate governance point of view, what do you think you did right there that people can pick?
The first thing is really staying calm. Yeah. Because if you overreact, that's when you are running around town trying to get everybody to help you and even going to your enemy to help you. So you just need to be very calculating and just keep as much of the information to yourself as you can. And then the second thing, obviously, is prayer. Because when you have something like that happening, it's a force. It's got so much momentum. And it's momentum that's coming from the other side of where your momentum was. And you can't undo that or handle it on your own. You need a supernatural force or entity that's going to do it for you. So this thing of thinking, I'm smart, I can do this, I can do that, just get rid of that. Get on your knees and pray. If you're not a Christian, get on whatever. Or get on
whatever supernatural that you have.
Whatever supernatural that you have.
Because
and
it's beyond,
invoke all of that because it's beyond. And because I'm spiritual, I know that life is not 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional. It's multi-dimensional. You have spirits everywhere that affect everything that you do. And so whenever you are having an intervention, it's very easy for you to think that intervention is a result of your brilliance and your intelligence and this and that, when in fact, a lot of the times it isn't. Yeah, it's beyond you. Yeah. So that is what I learned. Just be calm, just be calculating and read and understand what is the best way to resolve this problem that I have. And also don't give up. Yeah. Because if I had given up, I can tell you what would have happened is they would have come in, they would have taken all those annuity funds and they would have stripped that company and run off as they ultimately ended up running off. Yeah.
So tenacity is also quite
No, definitely.
Stay in there.
Definitely, yeah. You don't stop until it's over. Yeah, you don't.
Yeah, but in the end, we are human.
Yeah.
You are a mother, you are a daughter, you are, and someone's aunt, as we said earlier. We're all vulnerable.
Yes.
How did it, there must be a moment of a tear or, my daughter, why do these things happen? Share to us, because sometimes as a leader, there is that, and I'm saying this again, we'll talk about being a woman in terms of just being so vulnerable with all these shucks all over you. How did that play out?
I have to tell you, I never think of myself as a woman. I always think of myself as somebody who has an assignment to do. Being a woman is an accident of nature. If anything has to be done, I have to do it, whether I'm a female or whether I'm a man. But by nature, I'm a woman. So that is not what propels me. And secondly, I never actually think in terms of why me. Why not me? Yeah. It never occurs to me to think about why are all these things happening to me, whatever. They are happening to me. And I've already come from a background where I know things will happen to me because there is someone who is overall in control and in charge. And he knows that at this point in my life, this is what is going to occur. So I never question that. I accept it as quickly as I can. And I've always said to my kids that, when you are going through life, you're going to stumble and fall. It's not a question of lying there and waiting to be run over. You have to pick yourself up, dust yourself, and keep going. So I never think in terms of why me, this, that. I think this has happened. I embrace it. It's happened. I embrace it. I say, okay, fine, this is where I am. What do I do? And of course, it's not easy. But when you have a background where you believe everything is going to be okay, you never despair. You don't despair. Yeah. I hope you're going to believe me. I hope you're going to believe me when I actually tell you that I've never shed a tear for CMB.
Oh, really?
Never.
Really?
No. Yeah.
And I'm saying this because, we were discussing earlier that, I'm part of Elevator, which is a coaching and mentoring program for young ladies. And, you can see how much hunger, how much they struggle to start businesses, to be relevant in the corporate world as well, and all that. So someone like you, there is a certain certain ambience that goes with the fact that you are a power woman. Power woman meaning, you never cry, you are never vulnerable, and some critics will say, some women start behaving like Margaret Thatcher, their power, and then they say, but I'm a woman in the end. Can the system accommodate my femininity, to borrow the word? So I just wanted to challenge you in this. Or what about those that feel like they are, whatever the role, they're still women, if you know what I mean?
Yes.
And again, I see it even with men, where you become objectified to have this posture of a powerful CEO. I'm in charge. I'm never vulnerable. Nothing will shake me up. And which I can see. Sometimes I talk to them, and some of them are actually crying behind the scene because they're actually breaking up because they have this posture that they want it to be the news.
Yes.
Yes.
I said I never cried about CMB. I didn't say I never cry.
Okay. Okay.
No, I do cry in different circumstances. But it was not about CMB.
Yeah.
And being vulnerable is something that I am, One thing that people don't know is that I'm an introvert. I'm very introverted. I have a public persona. So people find it difficult to believe that I'm an introvert. But introverts, when we have problems, we internalize those problems and we withdraw. So I withdraw and I fight whatever battles I'm fighting, and then I'm comfortable to come out again. It's not the same thing as saying I'm not vulnerable. I do feel pain. I do feel that, I've been exposed and I know. But like I'm saying, it's always about accepting. I accept what comes my way. And I embrace it and I say, this is fully me. I'm not going to hide behind anything else. And then I go to my priest and I confess, and I go to my family and I lick my wounds. Yeah.
The support structure is there.
Yes, the support structure is definitely there.
We sometimes undervalue the support structure, isn't it?
Oh no, the support structure I have. Yeah, I've built over the years. And when we were having the CMB debacle, my sister used to come to my house almost every day.
Oh.
And she was more scared than me.
Scared for you, I get it, but scared more for you. Like, no, you don't.
She was scared for, but she was so scared. One day she sees me at church. She says, "You've been able to come to church." I said, "Yes." She says,
"You were just coming."
She says, "If it were me, I would not even be able to get out of bed."
Shams.
Yeah, so I have my uncles and I have family around me.
Now let's take it a bit broader, in terms of the
this was a huge startup, went through all typical textbook struggles of a startup with courts and guys going to jail and stuff like that. What would you say about, and Botswana is, as you know, we've been, upper middle income country for a while. And we've been a very government-dominated, with the bulk of employees being government. The talk about private sector taking stage, never really happening. I know the current government is trying to shift that to make sure now we play the rightful part. But how has your experience educated you around, just a startup like BonaLife? What could have been in place that would have helped from a policy, just helping the startup? Because we always talk about the startup ecosystem, how it's important to get that. Obviously, part of it is things that you can't mitigate, like corruption and scams that you talked about. But what would you say about how this is a good example of what not to do, or what government should do to facilitate such startups? The good thing is that BonaLife is actually flourishing at the moment. I mean,
Yes,
it's the
it
third
is.
largest.
Definitely.
And growing, I think.
Yes, it is growing. Which I'm very proud of.
I know. Well done.
No, I think, like you rightly say, it was a big venture. And I was able to enter at that level because of the background that I had. So I had the relationships, I had a brand already, and I had a lot of connections in terms of knowing that if this is what I want, this is where I can go. What I find is lacking for the average person is that sometimes we don't have those places where you can go for support. And I say this because sometimes our government or public servants don't understand what their role is. They think their role is to block you from going to get to where you need to be. So what I think would be really beneficial is if we could have a different mindset in terms of understanding the role of the public, especially the public sector, in getting businesses going. So they should be starting from a point of view of, let's get this business going, instead of wanting to tick every box and ask for this and ask for that and, just make it impossible for you to make leeway. So the key thing that I really think would be a big plus in this environment is having an environment that is more enabling, an environment that is more sympathetic, and an environment that is can do instead of won't do. So that when you get into a government office, you know that this person is your partner. Whoever is helping you at the time is your partner in getting this thing off the ground. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And I am saying I was able to do this because the people that I knew and the connections and the relationships that I had were at a high level. So if I encountered that block, it was easy for me to go.
Escalate,
It was easy for me to escalate. But the ordinary entrepreneur doesn't have that level of relationships, and they don't even know. The way we've been orientated as a nation, you're even scared to escalate.
Not true.
You don't think you've got that right to escalate when you have a problem. So we just sit with this problem and we ruminate on it and we ruminate on it until the opportunity is missed.
Fade away. Yeah.
It fades away. So the environment that we're operating in makes it 10 times difficult for you to take off and to move. So that's the biggest thing that I wish we could just change our environment so that our civil servants understand that, look, it's an imperative for me to get this business going. Because this person has already brought what they can. They're bringing their money and they're bringing their courage to be able to take the risk of setting this thing up. Let me help them. Let me not prevent them.
Before the podcast, we were talking about the state of the economy, which is also very unhealthy at the moment for Botswana. And I think it just reinforces why now this is so critical in terms of having a very facilitative public service for entrepreneurs. And I'm just keen to hear your view with regard to, the new regime because they seem to be saying all the right noises around, making the private sector lead, export-oriented type economy.
Yeah.
Do you have reason to be optimistic now that maybe the tables will start turning in terms of the shift of really facilitating the private sector? Because, you're right. I mean, what has happened is that, as you said, you now have very few elitist entrepreneurs when we want a mass market. So it's only those who can escalate, are connected, are this, or they get listened because they're a foreigner and they can have audience with senior people. And for me, it's a very awkward and unsustainable where now we ululate a few people who are making it when we want that mass.
You know what the tragedy is? The tragedy is it wasn't always like this. 10, 15 years ago, it was very different. When you walked into a government office, you walked into a government office with a feeling that these are people who are friendly and who want to see something happening. It didn't have the same aura that it has now. It had a completely different aura. But having said that, it is true what you say. The small companies and the ones that are struggling are the ones that need the help the most. About the new government, what I can say is that there are 3 or 4 components that have to be working together in order for transformation to happen. First, you've got to start with the right dream or the right thought. So it starts in the mind. And then you've got to pronounce it and to say this is what it is going to be. And then you've got to plan and organize for it to happen. And then you've got to make it work. You've got to roll up your sleeves and get it going. So what I have observed is that the thinking might be in the right place. The desire might be in the right place. The right things might be being said. I don't see yet the planning and organizing, and I don't see yet the actual implementation. And those are the key things really that will transform anything. Things have to happen after they've been talked about. So maybe that is to follow, but that's basically what I'm seeing now, that there isn't enough of the planning and organizing. Maybe it's starting, and there isn't enough of the actually doing. And the other thing is that we are in the state that we are in. The UDC has inherited it. By and large, they haven't created it. Well, there's a view that if you are complicit, you also end up being part of the problem because you couldn't stop it. But what I'm trying to say is that it's something that they inherited. And one of the key things about inheriting something is that you need to be able to immediately say, this I will not take. This I cannot countenance. It has to stop and it has to end. Before you can repair anything, you've got to stop the damage that is happening.
Undo some of the, And
a lot of what they've inherited are empty institutions. Empty institutions in the sense that very many good people have been moved from those institutions. They've been transferred, they've left, and so on and so forth. Now, there's nothing wrong with people moving and being transferred. But we have to understand that entities are living organs. As a lawyer, I was trained to understand that an entity is a living thing. It's got a life.
Yeah, it's a living organism.
It's a living organism. So it has an ecosystem, and it's got values, and it's got a spirit. Every time you remove someone from an institution, you are taking the institutional knowledge, you are taking part of that institution with the individual. And that's something that the BDP, I don't think, paid particular attention to. So you have these empty institutions because the good people have been taken out, they've left, and they've taken the soul and the spirit and the knowledge of that institution with them. So we have a lot of institutions that are empty. And it's important that these institutions must be reformed. They must be transformed, and they must be capacitated. Because if they're not capacitated, it's going to be much of a muchness.
So this is the kind of stuff, if you had to have coffee with His Excellency Duma Bokoi, these are the things that you put on his plate.
I would say, Mr. President, we have to capacitate these institutions, and we have to stop some of the things that really are untenable before we can move on. I mean, an uncle of mine put it so beautifully when we're having a conversation. He says, if you rescue someone in an accident and they're bleeding profusely, you don't infuse them with new blood. You've got to stop the bleeding.
Stop the blood first.
Yes.
Yeah, stop the bleeding first.
And then you infuse them. Yes.
And that's what they need to do.
Yes. So there has to be structural changes. You can't continue to fix an entity with the same things that cause the problem.
Okay. As we come to the end, do you have reason to be optimistic from a broader picture in terms of where Botswana is going, or what is your take?
I'm a Christian. I'm always optimistic. I told you.
Serial optimist.
Yes,
yeah.
I told you that the reason why I remain calm is because I know things are going to be okay. But sometimes things have to hit rock bottom before they can be okay.
Yeah,
exactly. And that is why BonaLife had to go through what it did and hit rock bottom so that it could be cleansed and then it can move forward as a proper institution.
Yes. How do you say that in Kalanga? Nice.
Yes.
It's interesting. You know, every time I walk into a restaurant where we have meals with my family, and then the waiters will come and say, "Can I help you, sir? Can you just..." And then they'll have a name like Tom on that thing. It's like, don't you have a Tswana or your local name? So I have it. Can you remove that Tom and pull and speak to me in Setswana or your local? And then when they speak, and I said, do you realize how brighter you become when you become who you are?
Exactly.
You don't become this recorded, how can I help you, sir? Type thing, which is trained.
That is just so true. Because language actually defines who you are.
I was seeing how bright when I talked to you, when I asked you to speak in Kalanga, you're like... the glow.
Yes, I came out.
Exactly. And it's beautiful. I don't know why we have this pretentious thing of acting. I was like, no. My daughter, you are free to be who you are. Actually, we enjoy you more when we can relate to your name and you speak, you know. So speak to me.
It's society. When you are born as a baby, the template is a blank piece of paper. So we program these people to become what they ultimately become. And then when we realize that it's not favorable, we forget that we're the ones who programmed them.
Absolutely, because they tell me, no, the boss will kill me if I speak. I said, no. Call your boss.
Yes.
And they say, okay. Emma, now, lastly, just coming back to your personal self in terms of what you're doing and the future in terms of positioning. I know that now you have a consulting firm, you coach. Just tell us about now yourself, how you position yourself and what's exciting on your personal side.
On my personal side is just being me. One thing that I found when I left corporate, and the book, and the books,
the books.
One thing that I found when I left corporate is that I'd moved so far away from who I was. It took me a while for me to figure out who I really am. And I must say, a friend of mine once said, many, many years ago, it could be more than 20 years ago, they once said to me, you should have remained in the public sector because that is where your heart is. You don't care about money and you don't care about material things. So what are you really doing in the private sector? And at the time, I thought I was brilliant. I said to them that, no, I'm motivated by a challenge. But what I didn't realize is that if you are the people that you are with, you ultimately become. So being in the private sector, you ultimately become a private sector person. You think and you do things in a particular way. So having to move away from that and just find my space has been a challenge because I'm an artist. I'm someone who just loves speaking. I love speaking.
Okay.
Yes, and my family call me Malenyalo Lekai. Yeah, I just love weddings and family and family events.
Okay.
So I've gone back into myself just to be who I think I should have been. So I'm writing my memoirs, I'm writing my books.
Beautiful.
And I'm writing on management and governance and all the things that I've picked up. But I'm also spending time mentoring and coaching people.
Excellent.
And this came from a statement that was once made by one of my employees. They said to me, they came to me with a problem and they said, Mavi, sometimes I'm so reluctant to come to you for help. I said, why? He said, because you make things look so easy and I feel stupid. And I said, I don't make things look easy. Things are easy for me because I've done it before. But nobody expects you at your level to actually know. And there's no point in sitting there and ruminating for 3 months when you can come into my office and learn about something within 30 minutes. So I do a lot of that and I feel very passionate about just empowering the next person. And then I also do consulting for small businesses. When it comes to strategy, finances, they struggle with finances and implementation of projects. But it's on a small scale. I don't want to be lumbering myself with heavy things. And then I sit on a couple of boards. So,
still, which helps you in terms of intellectually to keep going and advise, use your experience. Okay. And then the famous book that has made the top impact in your life that you like to share with our viewers?
It's the Bible. Like I said earlier on, we can't all be Christians. So whatever you are, whatever you feel grounds you spiritually, that's what you should be reading. But when you read the Bible, it comes across as a book. It's very prophetic. It's got examples and it's got principles that don't change. And when you read the Bible, it humbles you. It makes you realize that, look, it's not about you. Stop making it about you. Stop being who you think you are, because that is not who you are. What you are and who you are is who God says you are. So the Bible for me is a book that I think everybody should read. The other book that I've loved reading is the biography of Winston Churchill. Very, very informative, and you learn to read about how people live their lives and they are courageous and they are unflinching in what they believe. And sometimes it's not about being right or about being wrong. It's about having that inner conviction.
And it's interesting you mentioned that, because now I'm relating it to your story. Because Winston Churchill, it was almost accidental. He was a historian. So even before he came into power to become the prime minister, he knew a lot about, also he had participated in the First World War. So when they went, I think it was Chamberlain who resigned, and he said it was like destiny for me to come in. Right time, right person. And then, talking about your accidental where you seem to just fall in place. Isn't that interesting?
It is. Maybe that's why the book resonates with me, because I never actually...
it just happened that Winston Churchill, right time, right person.
But it has left a mark. And of course, I have a book in my coffee table as you come into my house, Nelson Mandela.
The man himself.
The man himself. So those are the 3 books for me that have really made a difference.
No, it's been so wonderful. I really appreciate the time that you gave.
I appreciate this.
And I mean, your story, like you said, please put it down and write the story.
It's going down.
So that the Kokomani and everybody coming before they can because I always say we don't write enough. I mean, we've got powerful stories. We just go to the bookshop and start buying American books. South Africans are writing.
Yes.
And you read one of these books, like, I've gone through the same thing, and here's the guy who's a bestseller. Exactly. So we can't wait to get those books.
Yes.
And
But I must say that if my book is published, I need to really, what shall I say, thank Rakud. You remember Rakud, the former minister?
Yes.
He met me and he said, Regina, when are you writing your book? And I said, why? He says he was a teacher. When I wrote an essay, which won the national competition. And he told me about this essay. He says, when we read that essay, we all called each other to come and read it and say, wow.
Oh.
So he says, you must write. And I've always been a writer. That's why I say I've moved away so far from where I should have been.
But isn't it interesting that as a person, as you know, I'm an engineer.
Yeah.
And I was talking to one architect the other day who said, with the podcast and your book, you are a transformed engineer, because I'm an engineer, but I haven't explored my other lives. That you can actually have different lives in your own life span. Am I right?
It's true.
Yeah.
When I started writing my book, I realized this is not one book.
Yeah.
So now I've got 3, even 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it will be just a question of putting them together.
Yeah. No, wonderful. Thank you.
There
we go. The GrowthWell podcast. Please, as usual, let's subscribe. Let's keep going with this episodes. And we promise to bring you more and more. And have a happy time and see you next time. Bye.